Chapter 14, Killdeer Farm on the Outskirts of Chokecherry. Hondo was adjusting the hat on a scarecrow rising over a field of new corn. Casey parked the gov ride next to the barn as Hondo turned toward him. The scarecrow reminded Casey of the character from The Wizard of Oz. Hondo walked his way and Casey waved back. The sun was making its retreat to the western horizon, casting shadows across the Killdeer farm. Chickens clucked and scratched the ground in a nearby coop, the smell of fertilizer in the air. "Good evening, Hondo." "Same to you." "Do those scarecrows actually work?" Hondo shrugged. "Hit or miss. I think I just do it out of habit now whenever I plant new crops. Beekler let you take the company car today?" Made a run over to Teddy Roosevelt National Park. Casey's mind went to Piper and her cute curls, and used it to check on the oil drill across the river. Hondo's eyes shot up. "Really? Let's talk about it while you feed the calf." They ventured to the back of the barn and Casey grabbed the milk bottle that Hondo had prepared. "How's he doing?" "You tell me." Hondo rested his arms over the stall as he watched. "Did you think of a name yet?" Casey pulled a stool over and looked at the buffalo calf. The calf jumped back and forth with the excitement of a toddler on a sugar high. He still favored his strong back leg, and Hondo had put a fresh bandage on. "Hey, buddy, I thought of a name for you." Casey extended the nipple toward him, and the calf shuffled over with little hesitation, lashing onto the bottle. "What do you think of the name Manito?" The calf blinked his eyes. "Manito?" Hondo asked. "This word means spirit in my language and carries a powerful meaning to my people." Casey looked up at Hondo. "I didn't know that. I chose it based on a reference about Teddy Roosevelt's favorite horse, the one he rode while he was playing cowboy in North Dakota, Manito." Hondo beamed a smile. "A fine name for your new friend. Looks like Manito's leg is healing well." "Yeah, I put a new bandage to make sure he doesn't get an infection until it fully heals. That reminds me, when Manito heals, you must break him in while he's still young." Manito finished the bottle and ripped it out of Casey's hands again. "What do you mean, break him in? Like a horse?" "Yes. You must teach him to be friendly toward humans. Continue to feed and care for him as you gradually get him comfortable with the idea." Casey imagined riding on top of the buffalo's back and laughed at the image. "I don't think he'll be able to support my weight anytime soon." "You're right, but bison are stronger than you know. When his leg heals, you can start by placing blankets and bags on his back. Then we'll work up to it." "That would be a first for me." Casey watched Manito whip the bottle around like a chew toy. He reached out to touch Manito's head. Manito moved away, though not as fast this time. Casey thought back to pulling the tarp over his dead mother, and he was sure Manito missed her. "When I ran my rescue, we had red dogs come to us for many reasons. Babies separated from the herd, attacks from other natural predators like wolves, hunters claiming they mistook a buffalo for a bear or something else from long distance. But I never once saw or heard of anyone driving up to a buffalo mother and opening fire at point blank." Casey fiddled with the shell casings in his pocket. "What happened across the river?" "I ran into the man from the video, the one who killed Manito's mother." "Come, let's talk as we head over to the dojo." I drove down the dirt road by Parsons' house. Casey followed Hondo out of the barn. An exterior barn light flickered on as the sun made its exit. The oil drill looks fully installed, and now they're clearing the entire area around his house. A bunch of men wearing construction hats operating heavy equipment. I parked down by our Park Service grounds and walked around the field. Found spent shell casings near the location he killed the mother. Walked upriver from there, then the man with the fishing hat drives out to me on the blue ATV. He had a silver lure on the side of his hat. "What'd you say?" Hondo held the door of his dojo open for Casey. He flicked on a light and they sat on the benches across from each other. I asked the guy if his name was Parson and he looked surprised by my question. He told me Parson hired this guy and his crew to extract the oil while Parson flew off on some extended vacation to the Caribbean or Mexico. As far as I know, Parsons never left the state in his life. His father once told me they both were home dwellers. What else did this guy say? Strangely enough, I bumped into him at the P's and Q's pub last night. We made small talk about our watches at the pub and again this afternoon. I spotted the bulge of a firearm under his jacket, and he looked like what I imagine an ex-Navy SEAL would look and act like. There have been rumors of ex-military guys extorting local North Dakotans who discover oil under their properties. I wouldn't be surprised if they threatened Parson. Casey clenched his fist. I wanted to attack him, but he was on the ATV with his firearm on his hip and I was unarmed. I'm glad you didn't, or you might have met the same fate as Manito's mother. Hondo looked into his eyes. The question is, what are you going to do now? If I can't somehow get this guy myself, my next thought was to report Parson as a missing person to local authorities and to point them at the man I ran into today. Wouldn't they send an officer out to investigate if I did that? Perhaps one day, Hondo shook his head. There are so many other pressing matters for law enforcement to deal with in Chokecherry, though. This will be low on their list, especially if this military man tells them Parson is on vacation. What if we show the police the video from your security camera? That could help motivate them, but then it would become a federal issue since it occurred on park lands. Shoot, you're right. And from my experience, that could take months or years. He'd be long gone by then. Casey squeezed his hand around his shell casing. We can't let him get away with this. But I'm only here for the summer. Hondo dropped his chin and lowered his eyes to the floor. When I told you my story earlier about leaving my home tribe to pursue other things, that decision was a mistake that has haunted me my whole life. I left my life's true calling in community. He looked back up at Casey. What is your calling in community? I don't know right now. Guess I'm trying to figure that out. I've never felt like I've belonged anywhere I've lived. And if I'm being honest, I don't feel like being a park ranger is my true calling. I like the investigation and law enforcement components of the track I'm pursuing, but the rest feels forced. But even investigation work at the Park Service is wrapped up in red tape. Casey thought about his conversation with Truckee earlier and snickered. I have this goofy neighbor who thinks I should become a fugitive recovery agent to play bounty hunter and take bad guys off the streets of Chokecherry. I've heard the advertisements and seen the help wanted signs. You say you have the law enforcement itch, and I sense a hunter's spirit inside of you. Your desire to attack the man that killed Manito's mother is proof. You don't need to be a federal agent or cop to pursue this career. Your neighbor's right. Opportunities like fugitive recovery and private investigation are worth exploring. Now, stand up and take off your jacket. For real? Sounds like you've had a busy day. Hondo moved to the center of the dojo. So I assume you haven't read the Jeet Kune Do book. I plan to check it out later. Casey rose to his feet and pulled off his coat. Stand in front of me. I'll show you the stance now so you have a reference for when you read the book. Okay, but what makes you think I need more fighting skills? If you're poking around with ex-special forces or considering a career in fugitive recovery, you'll need to master hand-to-hand combat skills. I never said I was considering. Casey loosened his arms. Whatever. What do you want to show me? Give me your best fighting stance. Hondo paced in front of him. Casey squared up on Hondo and held his fist up like he was Muhammad Ali in the center of the ring. Let's start with your leg position. Are you right or left hand dominant? Right. I'm going to teach you the Jeet Kune Do right ready position. Hondo slapped Casey's shoulders. Relax, you're too tense. This is not a stationary position. This is a ready position, like a snake coiled before a strike. Slide your right foot forward. Casey slid his right foot forward. Good. Now slide your left foot back just a tad. Put about 1/3 of your weight on your right leg and 2/3 on your back leg. Make sure you cock your rear heel so your left foot is on the balls of your feet. You should feel the bulk of your weight on your left toes. Casey moved his body as instructed and redistributed more of his weight to the toes of his back leg. It feels like I'm leaning forward. That's excellent. Now unclench your fists. Make sails with your hands by extending your fingers out and curling them in toward each other. Move your left hand in front of your face and twist your right hand down in front of your groin. Looking at you from the front, I should see the backs of your hands. What's the purpose of this? Casey brought his left hand in front of his face and his right down by his groin. I'm used to having clenched fists in front of my face from boxing. Forget all that. Hondo circled around him. When you read the book, you'll understand. Hondo nudged him from behind. He floated forward an inch and bounced right back into the ready position. Bravo! You've now learned the Jeet Kune Do right ready position. You should practice this stance so you can assume this position in an instant without thinking. Tomorrow I'll show you what comes next. Casey gazed at one of the posters and then over at a reflection of himself in the mirror at the front of the room. Coiled up like a cobra, he felt like Bruce Lee for a moment. I'll give it a try. Thanks for the lesson. Hondo patted his shoulder. You're welcome. Nice job today at Parsons' property. Channel that predator instinct inside of you and think about how you might hunt the shooter across the river. Trust me, it'll be top of mind.